Full throttle, gear up. It's the LWS Open at Idlewild presented by Dynamic Discs and the Nati, day number 3. You're watching Tournament Central on the Disc Golf Network. Grant Zellner alongside Wisconsin's state champion for karaoke. It's Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. Terry, it's a quiet morning, and I have a feeling it's going to get noisy real soon.
Well, good morning, everyone. Yes, the glumidity has subsided. What we were experiencing yesterday morning, it is bright, it is sunny out, there's barely a cloud in the sky. The dew is trying to evaporate, and I think that's going to happen pretty quickly today. We're looking forward to beautiful conditions, and we're ready for Championship Sunday.
A lot of noise late in the round yesterday, considering how difficult the course played in round number 2 compared to round number 1. First thing you know, Valerie Mandujano goes from behind to all of a sudden 3 ahead of the field and will lead the way today into round number 3. I don't know if Val expected to be in this position, but here we are, and we caught up with Val after round number 2.
A battle out there. Let's start with how you're feeling right now.
I'm very dehydrated. I could feel it because my forearm got very tight, I think on like hole 12. A little headache, physically and mentally drained at this point, honestly. It's just been a long day overall.
Yeah, getting ready to just about tee off this morning and then having the 2-hour break probably throws you guys relatively out of sync from what you're used to.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I finished warming up and I think I just threw the last putts that I was going to before I walked to the tee, and I heard the horn and I was like, no, this is not happening. I did the entire warm up for like at least an hour, so I felt good. But once I knew that they blew the horn, I was like, I'm going to have to repeat this process all over again, and I know I'm going to be a little extra tired going into this round.
Maybe even somewhat perturbed. Well, you maintained throughout better than the rest of your card. There was a roller coaster. At some point, everyone ran into some significant trouble, and it felt like you had an extra level of focus. Would that be a good description?
Yeah, I think so. I felt like I've been playing so rough this year where I feel like I've lost focus in the past, and I tried not to let that happen. Like, I think that was my one goal, is just to be focused and throw shot for shot.
Well, overall, it turns out that you're going to be on top. What do you think about knowing how volatile that Idlewild can be, and even what we saw today? What do you think about in terms of round 3, the final round out here?
Honestly, all I can do is leave it in God's hands. If I'm meant to win, I'm going to win tomorrow, and if not, I'll learn from it, and I'll see another day.
Terry, I think you could make the argument that the players won day number 1, and then the course won day number 2. You were there with that final group during the course of the day. You saw Valerie Mandujano dealing with some cramping issues in her throwing arm. What do you expect out of Val and those pursuing her today in terms of, will they bounce back? Will we see performances more like day 1, or will this be another war of attrition?
Well, first of all, their schedule is going to be more in sync today. As she described, getting ready, completely getting warmed up, and then having a 2-hour break to come back out and reset. That certainly affected the field overall, as we saw the score so much worse throughout the rest of the division. And what was really amazing to me is a couple things in terms of Val's stats that stand out to me. It wasn't until hole number 16 did she take her first OB penalty of the entire tournament. She was clean in round number 1. Round number 2, it took her all the way to the par 5 to find her first OB. So she leads in that category. Something else that is surprising when you look at Val's stats, she only has 1 C2 connection over the first 2 rounds. She's been very solid in C1X in the high 80 percentile during round 1, in the 90 percentile during round number 2, but hasn't really connected from C2. And if that starts happening, she's going to be able to extend her lead. And one other quick thought I have is, if you would have told her, Val, you're going to come out in round 2, you're going to shoot 4 strokes worse, but then leave with a 3-stroke lead, I don't think she would have believed you. So that tells you how crazy yesterday's round was out here.
Well, if you scroll back and look through the round two scores, you'll notice that each of the top three players did one thing alike, and that is they avoided the big number. All of them had bogeys, but nobody had a double bogey or worse. This course can jump out and get you quick. Avoiding those big numbers seems to be a key for success in the FPO field. Would you agree? And is there a hole that all of the players need to give a little bit more respect to? I have one in mind. I wonder if you would agree.
Well, I'm guessing my area will include the one that you have in mind. For starters, Val has had just 4 bogeys. I mentioned one of them being from the OB on 16, so 2 per round. She's keeping it pretty consistent there. But just the entire stretch of holes number 13 through 17. If you look down on UDisc and you kind of pan down, you see that's where most of the coloring on the scorecard takes place, is 13 through 17. 13 will eat your lunch. 14 can do the same. You might get a little reprieve on 15, and then 16 comes in as a par 5, almost 1,000 feet. And then 17, even if you want to lay up, sometimes that doesn't work out for you. So I'm going to claim that whole 13 through 17 stretch. Do you have one in mind in particular, though?
It was indeed 13. I think that is a turning point in the round. I think it's a turning point for both the FPO and MPO field, but especially the FPO field. That seems to be where good rounds go to die. It seems to be where mediocre rounds, if they stay on point starting at that point, all of a sudden that mediocre round ends up looking pretty good by the end of the day. So that is the turning point for me, and that's going to be getting a lot of my attention today. Someone else getting a lot of attention, maybe for the first time, for some of our viewers, Cadence Burge, a very young player, a player who literally has to choose between tournaments because she has obligations for high school right now. So she has to choose which tournaments to play and which tournaments she needs to stay home and work on that schoolwork. She will be playing from the lead card today. And Terry, you have some experience watching her game, and you can explain to us why she is in the hunt this week.
Yeah, it's incredible to see what she's doing. I just talked about C2 connections regarding Val and how she has just one. Cadence was 50% yesterday because she was 3 for 6. And so she has long range. Everyone on the broadcast noticed that yesterday. She has no shortage of confidence when it comes to going after long putts and connecting 3 of 6 yesterday alone. Very impressive. Clearly, distance doesn't appear to be a problem for her. And some of that youthful confidence, I feel like you usually see that in a newer player in terms of going after putts that somebody may be a little reluctant to. Not for Cadence, and it feels like she wants to attack on every single hole out there. It was great to see her game up close yesterday, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do here today.
Cadence will enter final round action in a 2-way tie in second with Lucky Lorenzen. Lucky Lorenzen is one of those players that I think a lot of viewers have heard of and maybe even have spotted from time to time, but we haven't seen Lucky in contention like this in quite a while, maybe in more than a season or so's worth of action, yet here she is playing very, very solid golf and sounding like she's in a great headspace in terms of when she's talking to people, well, like you, after round number 2. And matter of fact, let's go ahead and catch a little bit of that soundbite from Lucky Lorenzen yesterday after the course.
0 OBs.
Oh.
100% scramble. What was the difference maker for you today that really propelled you, onto this lead card for tomorrow?
I really do not know. Sometimes I felt like the course just loved me. Like I got some lucky kicks, and then I just felt like I couldn't fail in a way. I don't know. I like wooded courses, and I like to scramble. It's fun to see what happens. Just get some distance. So I like it.
So tomorrow's a big day, obviously, with the final round. What's the mentality going in? What's the plan of attack? Those types of things.
It's going to be the exact same plan as today and yesterday. Just focus on what I have planned. Focus on every shot. Focus on being committed and staying positive. A putt is a putt, not for birdie, not for bogey. Just try and stay positive. That's the focus.
And Terry, I think you mentioned this a little bit yesterday. Players like Lucky racking up those airline miles, just getting in work, and it appears that it's beginning to pay off for Lucky Lorenzen.
Yeah, it's incredible to see, and I just mentioned our leader right now has 4 bogeys for the weekend. Lucky has just 5 of them, and they came, and in round 1 she went OB on 16 and 17, and that's where she picked up 2 more of her bogeys. So it's that 13 through 17 area in which if she can clean it up, it looks like she's got the rest of the course dialed in. Another opportunity for her, she was just 82% from C1X yesterday. She could clean that up a little bit. If she gets into that 90-95% range, she could certainly be making a run at the win here.
So what we have is Valerie Mandujano 3 clear of Missy Gannon. Now, normally when you've got a 3-stroke lead over somebody heading into the final round, that might feel pretty comfortable, but in this case, it's Missy Gannon we're talking about, and Missy Gannon is coming off of a big win, and Missy Gannon knows how to make up ground in the closing holes of a big tournament. We're going to hear from Missy Gannon on the other side of this break on the Disc Golf Network.
I'm asked all the time, why do you play disc golf so much? The best answer I can think about is, there's just something about disc golf. You might think it's just like any other sport, but I can promise you this is not the case. Disc golf is the walking nature, the closing of your computer, the discipline that it requires, that sound of those chains. I don't know what it is. The whole world should have the opportunity to try it. Let's grow the sport.
A round of disc golf can be long, and if you're playing in a tournament, it can feel like a marathon. This can leave you physically and mentally fatigued by the end when your shots matter most. With space for your discs, water, and even a place to sit, a cart enables you to bring what you need, helping you feel more prepared and energized without carrying the extra weight. This can help you maintain your edge and save you strokes through every round.
Welcome to beautiful Abilene, Georgia, home of the International Disc Golf Center. Featuring 3 world-class disc golf courses and a full-service pro shop, the IDGC has everything you need for the ultimate disc golf getaway. Explore the sport's history at the Ed Hedrick Disc Golf Museum and spend your evenings around the campfire right here in picturesque Wildwood Park. The IDGC belongs on every disc golfer's bucket list. Plan your trip today. Visit pdga.com/IDGC.
It's a beautiful morning at the LWS Open at Idlewild, presented by Dynamic Disc and the Nati. We go to the ground. Terry Miller with the PDGA's Danny Voss.
Thank you so much. And speaking of beautiful mornings, Danny Voss of the PDGA joins me. Danny, we've had an incredible weekend. We saw the action take place overseas. We've been talking about how DGN is a great benefit to PDGA members. Yesterday, we talked about majors and what it means in terms of going ahead and putting in a bid, soliciting for those. Man, where do we go from here?
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to reiterate this morning that, the PDGA, the global reach of disc golf and the PDGA and our friends at Disc Golf Network is really elevating the global sport that is disc golf. Like I said a couple days ago, almost 9,000 sanctioned events worldwide is where we're at. I'm sure we'll hit 10,000 by the end of the year, hopefully. And yeah, getting those major bids in. They're due November 1st, so mark your calendars. Start now. But there's another deadline coming up that I did want to give a shout out to. So Women's Global event is a huge initiative for the PDGA, and that's going to take place next year. It's going back to that every other year. It just sort of works out better that way. But RFPs are due for that, for if you want to contribute trophies or player pack items or whatever, become a partner. That kind of stuff is due on September 1st. And so it's a chance for local vendors or big vendors to get involved and really step up and make that event even better than it was before. But I mean, it's a huge initiative for us, and I'm really happy to get us more and more behind it.
Yeah, and just to quickly touch on the WGE, as we refer to it as the Women's Global Event, that's an opportunity for event organizers around the world to host an event, and then the PDGA really puts in a lot of work to then take everyone's statistics and their round ratings from those different events all around the globe and then compare them, essentially put everyone in the same division worldwide, respectively. So if you're playing in FA1 in Alabama, you're also playing against all the FA1s in Japan.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what makes that event so unique and really fun. We also have a Global Masters Series that is sort of modeled off of that similar concept. But yeah, going back to Women's Global Event, WGE, getting that participation from those vendors and suppliers and things is going to elevate the player pack, make the players feel really special, and that's important. And we really want to make sure that message gets out. So
yeah,
here today.
It's, as you're just saying, it's a great opportunity for these vendors because you're literally getting in front of hundreds, if not thousands, of potential customers and people you're trying to reach.
I think last year, oh gosh, Jenny is on my team is going to kill me for getting this wrong, but I think it was 3,300 competitors worldwide and just over 100 events. So there's a lot out there. This one's going to be even bigger. It always gets bigger and better. So it's your chance to be a part of that, and we hope you do.
All right, everyone. That is Danny Voss. I'll throw it back to you, Grant.
As well, Missy Gannon has been the rabbit more than once this season. She gets a chance to be the greyhound today and try to come from behind from that fourth place positioning heading into the final round. What is her mindset? We asked her yesterday after round number 2.
A lot going on that round, a lot of color on the card. What does that mean for you on this moving day and going into the final round tomorrow?
It's funny. It actually gives me confidence because at one point I think I was like 5 down. So, I did squander it away on the back 9 a bit, but that's Idlewild for you. So I think that it's really possible for me to stay cleaner than I did today, obviously. And if I can keep getting those birdies, then there's a chance for me to battle back and hopefully battle for that first place.
Right, a margin for error definitely exists for those last 6 holes or so. So yeah, going visualizing tonight and getting ready for tomorrow for your FPO leading 9th lead card on the final day that we were talking about. Like, how is that going to affect your confidence? What are you going to be thinking about? What are you going to be visualizing for tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always a boost of confidence when you're on lead card. I'm no stranger to being on lead card, so I think that'll be nice to be in the competition and really seeing what my fellow competitors are doing up top there. So I'm excited for the energy tomorrow, and I'm just going to relax tonight and come back out here in the morning.
Well, Terry, Missy does get a chance, like I said, to pursue rather than be the pursuee. She has the maturity and the experience as well to play off of what her fellow competitors do. It's almost like going into a match play event for Missy as she tries to work her way up. What are her chances?
Well, at this point, not only does she need to play well, but she's going to need a few women to falter in front of her. And normally, you think back to last weekend, for instance, where she had, destiny in her own hands. She was out in the lead and she could control the narrative. Here, she's going to not only need to do it on her own, but like I said, have somebody else falter. I look at a few of the stats that jump out to me. Immediately I see that she's had 5 OB strokes over the first 2 rounds. Again, I compare that to our leader in Valerie Mandujano, who's had just 1. Missy has had 5. And yesterday, Missy was 5 down going into hole 13. So Grant, as you mentioned earlier, you run into hole number 13, it can be a round killer. She struggled on 13 and 14, and then she struggled on 17 and 18. So those are obvious opportunities for Missy Gannon to clean things up, and she may need to do all of that and then some. A 6-stroke deficit against the likes of Valerie Mandujano, that's going to be really difficult to overcome. I know it's Idlewild. I know things get wild out here, but that's a pretty tall task right now.
Something that everybody we've spoken about thus far had in common, they made it through yesterday relatively unscathed. We can't say that about Madison Walker, although she is still in the hunt thanks mostly to an exceptional day number one. She struggled mightily yesterday, shot 12 strokes worse on day two than she did on day number one, yet there she is tied for fourth. What is Madison Walker going to have to do today in order to get into contention?
Well, yesterday she was in a position of being not only on the lead card, but in the lead going into it. That's the first time that we've seen that since the 2021 U.S. Women's Championship. So Madison struggled mightily just the weekend before. She was very candid about that. And she even admitted to me that she was nervous going into yesterday's round. And for someone who's been on the tour, who's been playing for as many years as she has, of course there should be some nerves, but she seemed a little more nervous than even I expected. And then she felt as if just any breaks that she could have gotten really didn't go her way. Of course, you have to throw good shots and hope that you're rewarded. And sometimes even when you throw a mediocre shot, you're hoping for the best. But hole 13 was one that, again, jumped out at us where she struggled. She took the OB stroke off the tee because it rolled out of bounds. And then when she threw an approach shot, that also barely just skipped out and over the OB line as well. So Madison maintained her composure, although we could see that she really struggled out there. And today maybe she'll be a little more comfortable on that chase card simply because the spotlight won't be quite as bright and any pressure may have been relieved yesterday.
Let's talk about Holyn Handley for a moment, if only for the fact that Holyn Handley's capable of taking down eagles on this course. As a matter of fact, Holyn Handley eagled the 16th, which plays at the exact same length as it does for the MPO field. Holyn Handley, the only eagle there at 16. She's capable of big numbers, and she's capable of big eagles. She sort of offset those yesterday, staying in 7th place throughout the day. Holyn, once again, in the conversation for what would be one of her biggest victories of her career. She's going to need a lot of help from those in front of her, but what can she control today?
Keeping it clean. That is the name of the game out here. I've continued to harp on the OB strokes and on the big numbers. You have to limit mistakes to a bogey at worst. And of course, you want to keep those at bay as best as you can. But taking those big numbers are really what's setting you back in the standings out here. I know that may seem all too Madden-like or too obvious, but you have to avoid, you have to think, hey, I'm going to get a bad break here or there. I may kick out of bounds, but I have to make up for it and just keep it at a bogey at worst. And there's a number of opportunities on this course where we've seen women go out of bounds but still manage to save the par. So that's could be in a possibility for a number of these holes, but you got to limit the damage out here.
Well, Terry, just by way of being equitable, we might as well mention the last two players on our two featured cards that we haven't named yet. Talking about Ohn Scoggins and Sarah Hokom, a couple of players known in particular for their forehand prowess. And of course, on top of that, Ohn known for her deep putting. Both of these players, again, like Holyn Handley, going to need a lot of help from those ahead of them to move up. But that's exactly what both of them did yesterday. They made some pretty big jumps up the leaderboard in round number 2. So we've seen that it is possible to move up even amongst the top best players in the FPO field.
Yeah, and I'd follow that up in a complimentary way, say I'm surprised that they've been struggling here. This is a course that suits their game so well. I've talked endlessly almost about the forehand dominance on this course, both of which are very proficient and some of the best in the world at throwing forehands. And this is on the shorter side of our courses. When you look at our courses throughout the entire year, this plays on that shorter side. And neither of them necessarily, dominant in that distance category. So this is a course that is difficult, but yet sets up very well for the technicians that both Hokom and Ohn are. So again, in a complimentary way, I'll say I'm surprised to say to see where they are, because I would expect them up a little bit higher. I'm sure they're thinking the same thing. I'm not telling them anything they don't already know, but I wouldn't be surprised if either of them put together solid rounds, or even both of them today.
Well, if you left the broadcast early yesterday evening and you went to bed, you obviously missed what happened. If you stayed with the broadcast last night, you still might not have seen what happened. We'll explain the joke on the other side of this break on the Disc Golf Network.
What people are going to notice when they pick up the Supreme Series is superior grip, superior durability.
The inspiration of creating a new disc line for Dynamic Disc was to actually step up the quality even more.
Our friends over at Latitude 64 have to have special molds made. And this Supreme line of plastic is truly a premium plastic. It's a premium disc, and you will know it when you touch it and when you throw it, that it's as good as it gets.
What makes the Halal Guys so deliciously different? You might have heard of our famously long cart lines that NYC fans happily stand in. Today, with over 100 plus restaurants across the globe, we are your place to experience authentic American halal. Enjoy our delicious falafel, Euro sandwich, platters, and sides topped with our famously flavorful white and hot sauces. Order online today and taste how we make different so delicious. The Halal Guys, bringing something deliciously different to the table.
Terry, there's no other way to say it. Last night was one of the more bizarre circumstances we've ever seen on the Disc Golf Pro Tour, and we've got the video footage to prove it. That is, if you can make out anything on the cameras. Last night they finished in absolute darkness. You were there on the ground. You are probably the best suited to tell us what in the world was going on.
Well, it was a crazy scenario. All the way back on hole number 9, we were talking about the possibility of not being able to finish the round due to darkness. So we assumed at some point it would get called and the players would have to come back out with a shotgun start this morning. Well, even though they had suggested that they called it on hole number 16, the player said, we want to charge forward and charge up our disc with a glow stick or a glow light, so to speak. They charged forward and they continued to play. 16 was open and relatively easy, 17 near darkness, and 18 complete darkness. Again, it was the player's decision. Just the 4 of them were on the course at that time, and they said, we want to push forward. We'd rather play in the dark now and complete the round as opposed to coming out this morning. And so, as they say, they played on.
Absolutely hilarious, frankly, watching them, especially on 18 as they jogged up the fairway to find their discs, had spotters lining the woods on both sides, having to probably duck and cover as they waited for those discs to come in. All in all, though, they saved themselves an early morning wake-up call this morning, and them and the rest of the MPO field will be on the network at usual time later on this afternoon. We've got to get going because it's the usual time for the FPO field to tee off. For Terry Miller, I'm Grant Zellner. We'll see you after the round.